Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Everybody enjoying the rain and the humidity?
Sure.
It's all our fault because remember a couple weeks ago we were begging for rain, and I guess we were begging and praying too hard because it's rained every day. So my name is Eric Hayden. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Newport, just down the road from you today. Mr. Jerry from the fire department is going to do the second half of the presentation. I'll do the first. First half is focusing on the weather service, products, preparedness, things that you should really be paying attention to. And then Mr. Jerry is going to talk about more town-specific things for Pine Knoll Shores. Excellent talk. Who has been here before for this presentation? I know some of you have to for work, but no, so we got a lot of new folks. So you have a lot of great information today. It's hard to process all of it. So I know some of you may take notes. Some of you may take brochures home. That is all great. If this recording works, we'll be putting this on YouTube and the town will share it. So you'll have many resources. Kind of sit back, take it in. Always know the town is here. The weather service, we're local. We're always here. So just take in what you can. You're going to learn a lot today, especially for folks that are new. Show of hands, how many of you lived here less than 5 years? So a fair amount and a fair amount have. Those that did not raise your hand, you were all here for Florence, which was 7 years? Okay. All right. So we have a mixed group here, but everybody that has been through a storm or that has not been through a storm, I want you to focus on a couple things. Continue to trust official sources, National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center, Town of Pine Knoll Shores. Just focus on trusted entities. You don't need to worry about the other noise. Focus on the impacts. Never, ever, ever focus on just a category of the storm. If it's a 1 or 2 or 4, it's important, but please do not make your decision just based on the category. Focus on all the impacts. Water's what kills, and impacts can occur well away from the center of the storm. What I mean by that is it does not have to make landfall in Pine Knoll Shores or Emerald Isle or Jacksonville to cause an issue for us. If it's anywhere near us, we should be paying attention. If you remember those things, you will be good to go as we move forward. I should introduce Mr. Zach and Jack, two of our summer students with the Weather Service. They are here as part of the Hollings program, a prestigious program for our interns. So they helped me set everything up this morning. And I told them the first thing I always mess up with is making sure this clicker is working. Okay, now that it's working. Okay, so communication is our biggest challenge, not getting the forecast correct. I get teased all the time. It must be nice to have a job where you can get it wrong. See, you're laughing already. You're laughing already. And it does upset me when people tease me about that because I was not good at math and we had to get through 3 semesters of calculus. So I kind of go like this. But it also upsets me because we are actually very accurate. Do we get it wrong sometimes? Yes. The bigger challenge is actually following unofficial sources or paying attention to something else and then saying, you said it was going to do this. Well, we never said that. So focus on official sources. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube and social media, people talking about every single storm. They're going to talk about everything, and they're also going to talk about the ones that never hit us or never develop. So you're wasting your time if you focus on that. The 2 resources you should pay attention to, weather.gov and hurricanes.gov. That's the National Weather Service, who I represent, and then the National Hurricane Center. Most consistent, accurate forecasts are from those entities. That's who you should be paying attention to. You're going to be anxious if you're paying attention to everything else. We already live in a vulnerable area. We don't need to be more anxious. You're going to not trust us when you follow something that says, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and it never does. So please follow official sources. You know, just ask yourself, if somebody says every day, get ready, here it comes, not good, this is rare. And I didn't have to look through like years of YouTube to see that. I grabbed that one day. That's what this channel posted 1 week. So if somebody's already always yelling and screaming and trying to scare you, you're not going to believe the stuff that you really need to pay attention to. So please focus on official sources. And you might say, well, Mr. Eric, you work for the Weather Service. Of course you have to say that. I'm not going to get up here and say, follow somebody else. So I'm going to back it up with data. We're a science-based organization, so I'm going to convince you with past storms. You can look this all up yourself. We're a part of the government, so we record everything. How many heard about Hurricane Helene in the mountains this past year, right? Devastating. This is a statement put out by the local office before the arrival of the storm. I think the storm there was Thursday night and Friday. They had heavy rains prior to that. This is an incredibly dangerous situation, potential to be once in a lifetime event. Consider temporarily relocating. I get paid the same today to come to this awesome talk, take that nice walking trail behind the building. You all live in a fantastic town. I get paid the same today to do this as I do during Helene or Florence. When we use strong language, it's because I see you in the community and we care about you. So when we are using strong language, we mean business. This is kind of an old school way. This is a text-based product. They had a post on social media that reached 2 million people. NOAA, our parent agency, released a press release the Wednesday before. So the information was out there. It's hard to believe it could be that bad. So some of that is the human element, but some of that is people not following official sources and not paying attention to what's important. What about the track? Yes.
On the app for hurricane.gov or whatever app we should download, there's one of yours, NOAA. Is that the one we should download on our phones?
Ooh, I'm a very competitive person. Ooh, I got to shake that off. We don't have an official app, and it kills me. Oh, it kills me because I think we have the best stuff, and we're not really allowed to bump into private entities and potentially take money away from them. So we don't have an app. That is not an official one, but that's a decent one. There's ones out there, but we're just missing the boat with that, to be quite honest. Yeah, because
there's a National Hurricane Center data app.
Yeah, it probably does use that. There's a lot of good apps out there.
Cool. Okay.
Whew, because I wish we had one, because that's the most popular question we get. So 3 days before Helene happened, it was not a storm. Let me reiterate. 3 days before Helene made landfall, it wasn't even a storm. And we, National Weather Service Hurricane Center, predicted in 3 days it was going to make major landfall as a major hurricane, Panhandle of Florida. Thursday afternoon, here's the eye hitting the Panhandle of Florida. I can't explain to you how much technology and the advancement of forecasting has gotten. I'm not saying there's not a wobble at the end, or somebody gets a little more wind than we expect, or maybe a little more rain than we expect. But by and large, you're going to know what's going to happen well in advance. And nothing says it better than this. Hard to imagine if you're in the mountains, it could be that bad, but unbelievable, the prediction. And then they got it bad in the mountains because they had rain prior to the storm. The storm kind of slowed down a cold front. They got a lot of rain. They had flooding even before it hit. Then they got hit with Helene's rains. But the bottom line is our forecast remains extremely accurate. We made this graphic to kind of highlight this. For those that had lived here more than 5 years, was anybody here during Gloria in the mid-80s, 85? So that's a notable storm in our area. Back then, if I was to tell the town of Pine Knoll Shores we might get a hurricane 3 days out, the center of the storm, the average error would be about 340 miles. What that means is I would tell the town the storm may make landfall anywhere from Savannah, Georgia to Washington, D.C. Anybody could say that. That's a pretty wide goalpost. And that's just the center of the storm, not, the storm itself is hundreds of miles across. Was anybody here for Floyd, 99, another big storm? Our error down to 211 miles. I would tell the town somewhere between Charleston and Richmond. That's better. This last year during Helene, our average error last year for where the center is going to go, 67 miles. So we would say the storm is going to go somewhere between Wilmington and Greenville. That's incredible. So our job in this room is to prepare like we're talking about today, pay attention to official sources, and trust what you're watching is actually extremely accurate. Again, there'll be little nuances that happen, weather is unpredictable in some regards, but overall, highly accurate the forecasts have become over the last many decades. So what's the problem? Why are we still having issues? Well, some of it is our own fault. Unlike the hurricane cone, I am not on a diet. I love Eastern North Carolina food. One of my favorite things to do when I do a talk is find a good restaurant and eat on the way back. And our 2 interns can attest for that. But this cone is on a diet. Each year it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because it's based on statistical error. So It's not showing how big the storm will be or the wind radius or anything to do with that. It's based on our error. So it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So for example, this path is only designed to show you where the center of the storm is going to go. It doesn't show you who will be impacted and who won't. It doesn't show the radius of the winds, doesn't show storm surge, rainfall. It just shows you where the little dot on the map is going to go. And that center, the storm is hundreds of miles across. So when you look at this, please do not think it's, I'm in it, I'm paying attention, I'm out of it, I don't need to pay attention anymore. As we got closer to Florence, we weren't in the path because it was accurately predicted to hit Wrightsville Beach, the center, but obviously we were impacted. So to counteract that, we put the radius on here. That's the radius of winds, which is bigger. And then now we show watches and warnings superimposed on it to try to convey to people that the cone is important, but if it's from Florida to Delaware, where we live, we should be paying attention. Does that make sense? It's just where the center is going to go. And the other problem is a lot of people focus on this dot. Where is this center going to hit? This is Floyd, hundreds of miles across. So before it gets here, we're getting rain and potential tornadoes and winds. And then, oh, by the way, here comes the center. So you'll hear, where's it going to make landfall? What time is it going to make landfall? Important. It's not to ignore it, but please remember 6, 12, 18, 24 hours before it gets here, it's here. Hundreds of miles across. Pay attention to all aspects of the storm, not just when it's going to make landfall. So follow official sources. Who is that? That is us at the Weather Service. As you leave Morehead City, the new Smithfields, the smaller Walmart, that's where we are on Roberts Road in Newport. We live in your community. I live in Cape Carteret. We're not from some national headquarters. I live in Carteret County. So I am your neighbor. We work 24/7, 365 at the office. We're always there, somebody. Our website is weather.gov. And if you just add Newport or you click on Eastern North Carolina, certainly want to bookmark that. Lots of information on that website, forecasts, briefings, preparedness information. I always say if it's the weather you love, weather.gov. That's all you need to remember. If you move to Myrtle Beach this year, weather.gov, click on South Carolina, you'll get the Wilmington office. So just remember weather.gov and you are good to go. Social media is a good place to follow us. We try to wave our hands on social media. So our website, you can tell something's coming, but social media, you really know because we put up video briefings and we do graphics and we highlight potential storms. So social media is kind of the quickest way to know something's happening. And the reason for that is there's a lot of noise out there. So we're trying to get ahead of the noise by being proactive on social media. Hey, you might have heard about a storm. Don't worry about it yet. It's too far out. We'll be very blunt. Hey, you may have heard about a storm. Yeah, we need to be watching this, that type of thing. And then to follow us, it's just NWS Morehead City. So National Weather Service Morehead City. And you can follow us just about anywhere. And that is where this video will be after today's talk. On the website, local briefings, very in-depth. This is what the town gets. So the town, the county, the state, the governor, they all get this information. You are tax-paying citizens. We cost you $4 per person a year for all of this information. Satellites, radar, forecast. Oh, Mr. Eric, I don't use you. I just get the forecast on the phone. That's from us somehow. Even if it's not our forecast, data has to go into a model. That's all us in the room that are paying taxes create this. So please look at those briefings. It's on our website. There'll be a hyperlink to it, and we'll show you threat of rain. What's the worst threat? What time of the week is it going to be bad? When are the winds going to get here? So there's just tons of information on that website. So local, weather.gov, click on Eastern North Carolina or add /Newport. At the beginning, I mentioned another one that's good, hurricanes.gov. That's the National Hurricane Center website. One thing you should start kind of paying attention to is something called the Tropical Weather Outlook. You may see this on the Weather Channel. Donnie Cox, Les Still, Jerry Jackson, all the local weather people show it, and they'll say, what's in the tropics today? That's what this is. It's updated 4 times a day. It just shows you a low, medium, or high chance of something forming in the next 7 days, and it shows you storms. You just look at this with your cup of coffee in the morning, 30 seconds, and then you move on with your day. It's just a heads up, something's coming, or something you need to be paying attention to. So it's very good. You can get it many other ways, but it is a good resource. On the Hurricane Center website, in our briefings, is a lot of good information. Time of arrival for winds. When are the strong winds going to get here? Wednesday morning, Tuesday morning. What about the surge values? We're going to talk about what this fancy pole is. How high is the water potentially going to get in my community? That's all on that website. So if you don't believe me and we get a storm this year, please look at Hurricane Center and our local website. You're going to get tons of information. And our broadcast partners, especially locally, they do a very good job. Nobody's really off. Pretty much everybody sticks with the official Hurricane Center forecast so that we're all on the same page. I'm glad you're here today. The time to prepare for storm season is now. Really in May, we've had storms, and we've had them as late as October. So this is a graph showing that the peak of the season is not until September 10th. So grandkids go back to school, kids go back to school, Labor Day. You're glad some of the tourists are going back to where they live. It's September. You're not through hurricane season. If you're a sports fan like I am, you're at halftime. Halftime is September 10th. So let that sink in. We have a long season to get through. We've had storms like Matthew and Sandy into the fall months. So keep that in mind. Now's the time to prepare because we've got a long season ahead of us. If you didn't realize, we are a vulnerable location. We live in a beautiful town. It's nothing to be scared of, but it's our responsibility to be prepared for what could happen some years, sometimes a couple times in a year. These are a name of storms that you will hear people that have lived here for a long time mention: the Hazels and the Donnas, obviously the Florences, but also the Isabels and the Bonnies and the Frans. You'll hear these names. These are not family members. These are bad storms that have hit our area and made our beaches look like this in '98. So we do get a lot of storms. We don't have control over that, but we do have control over preparing. And the other resource I want you to write down, I'm a little biased, but I made this website to put everything in one spot. So if you go to our website and you just add hurricane prep, or you can write the whole thing down, one-stop shop for everything you need. Evacuation routes, what to have in your hurricane kit, just anything, graphics, videos, really, really good information. And the thing I want to stress is planning now is key. You're not stressed. It's 10 o'clock. It's a Tuesday. Last time I checked, we had some crazy weather the last couple of weeks, so I've been working some long hours. It looks like the next couple of days we should be drier here at the coast, hopefully. It's going to be really hot. We're kind of settling into summer. Great time to prepare. If you wait until the storm is 5 days out and the supplies are out at the store and you're not sure what to do, you're going to be stressed. So it's good to start early when you have plenty of time to think about it. And it's really a three-step process. Step one, before you even get to your kit, before you even talk about evacuations or re-entry passes or whatever you want to talk about, is what is your risk? Who is in your home and how vulnerable are you to wind and water? So in my home, I've got a 17, a 14, and 11-year-old and a new cat. And then, by the way, my parents that lived, I grew up in Baltimore, now live in Swansboro. My mom is in Swansboro. So I have a higher vulnerability because I've got two houses to think about, young people, and I stay for work no matter what. So my vulnerability is a little higher. If you're a young person, you can just pick up and move, low vulnerability. If you have an elderly parent that's on oxygen and needs electricity, life-threatening, higher vulnerability. So think about those things. If you're in a low-lying area, higher vulnerability. So once you have established that, then you start talking about your kit. If you're going to stay, I'm not going to leave, no matter what, you better have a darn good kit out to 7 days, food, water, and medicine to be completely on your own. The old way of thinking was 3 days. That's bare minimum, at least 3 days, food, water, and medicine. After Helene, a lot of people said, people didn't come or, nobody came and things like this. It's a natural disaster. It's very hard to get to places sometimes. If you're going to be on your own, you've got to be prepared to be without electricity, and you need all the necessities in your house to be on your own, to be that blunt. And that's everybody in your home. If you have pets, young kids, formula, diapers, the whole thing. Prescriptions, contact lenses, anything that you may usually just go to CVS or Walgreens for, make sure that you have that as your supply. So please try to push out to a week. I do stress to people, if you do a little bit this weekend, a little bit next weekend, it spreads out the financial impact. It also ensures that you do it. But again, have enough to be on hand for at least a week if you're thinking about staying. Even if you're thinking about staying, always have a plan to leave. Always, always, always. And try to have a couple options. So don't just think Kinston or Goldsboro or Raleigh. Sometimes they're worse than us. For Helene, the people in the mountains could have come here and they would have been just fine. So have options so you can go away from the storm. How many of you have relatives or friends or grandkids that like to come visit you at the beach, right? Go visit them. Return the favor. A hotel out of town or a family member that you're visiting is going to be way more comfortable than staying here during a storm. Well, I'm just going to go to a shelter. We do have shelters in the county. They are a last resort. They are a safe location, but they're not a hotel, and they are not your grandkids' place in Raleigh, Boone, Ohio, wherever they are. I didn't come up with that. I'm just a meteorologist. But when we do these talks with Jerry and the community, they are the experts in other lanes, and that's what I hear. I hear those things. I'm a meteorologist. So that's why we work together to repeat those things. Shelter's a last resort. Try to have a plan to go somewhere else. Even if you don't think you're going to leave, then last second you decide to go, you know where to go. So kit is important. Having a place to go is important. And then determining your vulnerability, really a three-step process. Now we're going to end the second half of the talk. Is going to be impacts, and getting away from this thing behind me. So how many have said, I'm not gonna, or you've heard a spouse say, I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 3, right? I'm staying here until we get a 3. I'm not leaving until it's a 4. I am staying here until we get a 4. This famous category, Saffir-Simpson scale, is only related to wind. So that's why we highlighted it up right here. Only related to wind. When I live in Cape Carteret, and I was scared when it was a 4. I'm not saying to ignore it, it's to be respected, but it's only a wind scale. It doesn't tell us how much rain we're gonna have. It doesn't tell us that we were hit by a storm last week. It doesn't tell us it's gonna sit over us for 4 days, or it's a large storm, or that it hits at high tide, or we're on the right side of the storm. All the nuances of storms are not captured in this category scale. So don't ignore it, but please, if you remember anything from this talk, don't make your plans just based on this. If we get Tropical Storm Jerry this summer, which Jerry's not on the list, I don't think, thank God. If we get 20 inches of rain from a tropical storm, that's going to be an issue. So just keep in mind, do not just make your plans based on this category. If you're going to focus on something, focus on the impacts, and that starts with water, water, water. 85% of our deaths are water related. We saw it in Greenville. We didn't lose anybody 2 nights ago, but I was there Father's Day evening issuing flash flood warnings for flooding in Greenville. Not hundreds of cars, but many cars in water. People cross flooded roads, or we get storm surge, rip currents. So water, water, water is extremely powerful. That is most likely what's going to kill you. Tree could fall on your house. Debris flying is dangerous, not belittling wind. But it is usually water that's going to do it. So that's how we're going to end. These are the things you should be focusing on. How much rain are we going to get? What's a storm surge? How high will the winds be? And you don't need a meteorology degree. Channel 12, Channel 9, ITN, they'll all talk about this, and we're all on the same page giving you that information. Our #1 risk where we stand today is storm surge, because we're on a barrier island. So we protect the mainland. So where we live is a protection for Morehead City. So storm surge is a big risk. Oceanfront homes, this is what can happen. I took our 2 interns. Again, if you haven't been on this nice little walk, I'm sure some of you have, because you live in a gorgeous town, just stellar. So we took the walk out here, and I was just showing them, like, yes, a lot of this is marshland here, but there's a house, you know, just across the way there, and it's built up high. But we can get surge on the backside of the sound as well. So it's not just an oceanfront thing. Anywhere along the water, you're at risk for storm surge. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to make landfall. Florence didn't make landfall in our area, the center, but we certainly saw a really, really high storm surge. So we try to mix things up. I'm just going to move it. We try to mix things up And we try to, if you can't tell, we're really passionate about what we do, and we try to come up with ways to talk about what can happen in our community. Not to scare you, but just to give you perspective. I'm a big basketball player, so I like to say, 10-foot surge, that's the height of a goal. But if you don't watch basketball, you don't know what that is. So this is our storm surge pole that we bring around to outreach events. We issue storm surge watches for 3 feet or greater of storm surge. Those are low-lying areas along the water, Sound side, ocean side, up the Newport River, that are usually dry, that will have up to 3 feet or more of water. So that's about my waist level. So that gives you perspective. That's deep already. In our community, we saw about 3 to 6 feet of surge locally from Florence on the Sound. Who likes to go to Carolina Home and Garden? Plants, music. If you haven't raised your hand, and we're not biased, but very, very nice place. Just a nice atmosphere. Right past there, it dips a little bit. I think it's Goose Creek. Might be getting it mixed up. Goose Creek. And it covered the road 3 feet deep on 24. So 3 feet from Bogue Sound. Salty Shores and some other places were like 4 or 5 feet. So 6 feet of surge with Florence. We're right, in our general vicinity. Who likes New Bern? Great town. If you haven't been there yet, check it out. Pepsi, home of Pepsi. Get yourself a little cheap drink at the Pepsi Museum, popcorn, movie theater popcorn, real good. New Bern is an awesome town to visit. They had 10 feet of storm surge in the downtown. So our pole only goes up to orange, that's 9. Higher than the ceiling we are today is the surge that they had in Florence. And guess what the category of that storm was when it actually made landfall? 1. Higher than the ceiling, 1. So storm surge, we're vulnerable to it. This is a worst case scenario, a 3. That would probably be a reasonable storm for us to get. Hurricane Fran in '96 was the last one we got. It's a matter of time. Those red areas are greater than 9 feet, and this is Pine Hill Shores where we are today. But I want to show the back sides of the Sound, just as vulnerable as oceanfront. So don't just think, you're not an oceanfront, you're good to go. So it's good to check out your elevation. We can certainly help you do that. Google Earth, there's other ways to check your elevation. If you're under 10 feet, you're vulnerable to some type of surge, especially if you're by a body of water. So again, it's just reality. The other 363 days a year we live here, and it's gorgeous, but just, paying attention to that. So storm surge where we live is the greatest risk. Another risk where we live is flooding. It's hard to get true flash flooding where we live because we're flat as a pancake. We don't have any topography. But if you've ever been off the island, your Atlantic Beach, the intersection there, you get any thunderstorm, they get standing water. So again, it's not flowing. Usually it's more standing, but it's still 2-3 feet. It's going to stall your car potentially, and it could be life-threatening. And the hurricanes category, not an indication of rainfall. So again, Florence was a 1, 20 to 30 inches of rain. Last year, potential tropical cyclone 8 or 9 in Wilmington, didn't even have a name, had about 20 inches of rain. So you get that much rain, you're going to have trouble. So storm surge and flooding are 2 big issues. Where we do have terrain, if you decide to leave, stay away. If you decide to stay put. Don't be on the roads. It takes a while to recover. Where you get inland, Snow Hill, Greenville, Kenansville, we get a little bit of topography. Again, I grew up in Maryland, went to school in upstate New York. I'm used to mountains. My kids grew up there, but they're used to here. We've been here 8 years now. So that first little hill we hit in Raleigh, and I mean hill, you feel it. When you live down here long enough, you'll realize how flat it is down here. Where you get some topography inland, we can get true flash flooding. Water is very powerful, never ever cross it. You don't know if the road exists underneath it. So you don't know how deep that water is. And again, this is not some image. I didn't talk to Jerry and say, hey, let's find the craziest weather washout in the whole world. This is up by Hookerton near Snow Hill. This is our area. This happens in Florence. This happens all the time. So road washout, very dangerous to cross, especially at night. You wouldn't even know it's washed out. And this is a water line. So you decide to stay. Just keep in mind your amenities might not be the same. Or these gentlemen in the back, they can't get to you for what would be a normal medical emergency. So just kind of keep that in mind. That they can't get here. they're going to try, but when this is, on the way to your home, they can't get there like they normally would. Things are not the same during or after a storm. It takes a while to kind of get back. So turn around, don't drown, never, ever, ever, ever cross a flooded road. Hopefully people will remember that. Toward the end, I cover wind. It is important. It can cause infrastructure issues, especially power lines. You can be without power more than a week. It has been a while since we had a lot of wind from a storm where we live. So we've been preaching water a lot statistically, but Fran in '96 brought us a lot of wind. So, and we've had, I think it was Donna in 1960 hit Bogue Inlet. So if we get a storm that hits Bogue Inlet Pier area, we're on the right side of the storm. We can have a lot of issues with wind, and it's really dependent on where it just hits. So a landfall in Jacksonville, Wilmington, Bogue Inlet, and we're on the right side of the storm, really bad for our community. If it just hits Cape Lookout or even Cape Hatteras, much better for us selfishly than it would be those folks. So near the center and to the right is where the strongest wind and surge will be. Toward the end, tornadoes, that's something to consider. You've already decided to stay, that's fine. Have this charged up, make sure it's turned on. It's not on do not disturb. Tornadoes can produce enhanced areas of damage well before the storm arrives. So with Dorian, big deal for Ocracoke, but for our county, the first outer rain bands reached our shore 24 hours before landfall. 24 hours before the center got here. Bogue Inlet Pier just down the road from us looked like this, huge EF2 tornado coming in on shore as a waterspout, and then Salty Pirate, that area had some damage. So again, for most of us, Dorian was more, I can't believe this has happened in the year after Florence. That's what it was. But it was not a huge storm here, unless you lived on Ocracoke, 5 to 7 feet of storm surge, and then down in Emerald Isle, they got tornadoes. All right, so we're pretty much done. There's 2 messages I want to pass on, then we're going to transition to Mr. Jerry. We're going to get his laptop hooked up, and we're going to turn it over to more town-specific information. Do not forget about your safety after the storm. You're here in June. We're pre-storm. You're thinking generator, storm prep, where do I go? All good stuff. Don't let your guard down when the storm is done. Don't be in a rush to get back here. Don't be on a ladder trimming your trees unless you usually do that. If you have a generator, know to not use it inside. We do lose people due to that. We're on septic. The water is nasty when it floods. Don't be out in the water. We've lost people to infection in Eastern North Carolina. About 50% of our deaths happen after the storm. Let that sink in again. 50% of our deaths after the storm. So you've evacuated, you've stayed, you came to this talk on a nice summer day. Don't be in a rush to get back. Don't be in a rush to clean up your yard. Be safe. Power lines, carbon monoxide poisoning, all those things you need to think about. Snakes, a lot of stuff comes up. One of our summer interns hates snakes. So when all that water comes up, a lot of things, fire ants, stuff like that like to come up. So I shared a lot of information with you. Some of you may say, wow, that's a lot to digest. Look outside today where we live. We live in paradise. It's a beautiful community. It's our responsibility to prepare. You do not have control over if we get a storm or not. You don't have control over if it hits us. We get 2 storms, 3 storms, 0 storms. You have control over going to the store this weekend and getting all your bottled water. You have control over that. You have control over 2 weekends from now, 3 weekends from now, getting canned goods. You have control over talking to your family about, hey, can I come visit you in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania if we get a storm? Why, yes, you can. You have control over a lot of stuff. So you control what you can control, then you move on and you enjoy our nice weather. And if we happen to get a storm, you're prepared. It's as easy as that. We don't have control over what's going to happen, but you do have control over how to prepare for it. We love giving these talks. We really appreciate the town having us. We could not get this information out unless we had a venue like this. Email me. We do church groups Sunday morning in churches, Bible study, bingo. We're going to give a talk after bingo in Swansboro at the end of July. We will go anywhere, and we will change the format. If you want shorter, quicker, sweeter, we'll do whatever you want, but you just got to contact us. We think this is really good information as well. So Mr. Jerry, if you could come up and bring your laptop, we'll start to transition. I'll be happy to take any questions while we get him set up. While we get Mr. Jerry set up, just a reminder, over here are some brochures. The one I would definitely consider taking is the Hurricane Guide. Unless you speak Spanish, make sure you grab the one in English. You're welcome to take the Spanish one. But it's very good. It's from the state. It actually has all kinds of information in it. So we're going to do this smooth transition. Yeah. Yes.
Red.
Oh, yeah.
Weather system. Is that for you guys or where's that from?
So that's from the county, but they do relay our stuff. So that is a very good resource. I'm signed up to that. It scared my kids to death because I signed them up and I forgot to tell them, and they were getting messages and calls and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, Code Red it's like the McDonald's versus Burger King. There's Code Red or Hyper Reach is the other one, and it alerts you to other things like boil water issues or any emergency situation. Yeah, but they relay our information for sure. Yeah.
Eric,
Yes.
when's the drop dead time before a storm? When there's only one or two roads off of this place. So, it's like the Florida Keys. You can say you're going to leave. But since only US 1 leaves the Florida Keys, you might not get more than 100 yards.
So I'm going to repeat the question. So anybody that asks a question, I'll repeat it for the online recording. So the question was, when is the drop dead? You got to leave or things like that. Usually a couple days before, because I don't get into the timing, but it can take a while to get to Raleigh and other places if you wait till the last minute. So you're going to know usually 48 to 72 hours, usually 72 if you need to leave.
3 days.
Yeah. That's what we try. And again, each storm is, it depends. And you can, Jerry, you can use I got power right there. You can get yourself plugged up. We got plenty of time. Yeah, 3 days, 2 to 3. Florence, we knew, I think my family left 4 because it was one that was, it's going to get us, it's going to get us, it's going to get us. It was almost just like, almost stressful even before it got here because there was so many days that we were preparing for it to make landfall. So it was, yeah, some 2 to 3 days, And then just don't leave, try to leave early in the morning and if there's traffic issues, because like we've stressed in the past, only 2 ways off the island, but also there's only a few ways you can get to the interstate.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least we're not Ocracoke, at least, not on a ferry. Nothing against Ocracoke. That's a whole different ballgame. Any other questions while Mr. Jerry gets set up? So we do appreciate you coming to these. Like I said, definitely grab some brochures while we get loaded up. And it's yes, over here.
We hear a lot about the European model as opposed to the national model. Have the logarithms of both kinds come together, and that's why we're doing so much better.
That's a great point, and I forgot to mention it. I need to mention it on that slide I made where the 3 bullseyes are getting better. So the question for the online audience, lady mentioned the European model, has heard about that being accurate in the past. How is that factoring it in? There's a lot of different models. There's an American model, Canadian model, European model, and we use what is called the best or the consensus, a blend of everything. So we look at that. We don't just say we're only using this one today. So we do a blend of models that tends to be the most consistent and also doesn't have the windshield wiper effect. If you just pick one model, sometimes it'll have wide variation. Charleston, Norfolk, Richmond, it's back and forth. So when you use a blend, we'll make slow changes left or right with it. So we take that one into account. And I need to reiterate, it's not just the most accurate forecast, the Hurricane Center, it's the most consistent. If you watch an individual model, it's going to change 2 to 4 times a day. It's going to be different. When you blend it and you combine it with the experience, we'll slowly change it back or forth. And that's important for decision makers, because if I tell you one thing this morning and something different tonight, how can you decide to evacuate or prepare? So is it still giving you trouble?
Yeah, it is. It's okay.
Okay.
So Eric did a great job of covering all the different safety pieces. I'll probably go through and reiterate some of those on town-specific things. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jerry Bowden. I function as the fire chief for the town of Pine Shores, which puts me in a really unique position of being the emergency manager as well. So if there's a storm coming, we were just talking about decision makers. I'm one of the decision makers as far as evacuation plans and that kind of stuff. What I really want to harp on with y'all is the evacuation process. What y'all don't know is that we sit at sea level. So when we're talking about storm surge and those kind of things, the safest thing that we can have y'all do is to get off the island. If you decide that you want to stay on the island, we do have something called the Hurricane Good Neighbor Program. And what that program does is there will be a number for you to call, and you let us know that, hey, listen, I'm staying on the island for this storm. It doesn't mean that we're going to, if an emergency occurs, that we're going to get to you first or any of those things. It just makes us aware. So once the storm has passed and we begin to go out and do our surveys and that kind of stuff, we can stop and check in, or we can make a phone call to make sure you're okay. That program is only for citizens of Palm Shores. Everybody look at PKS in the room? Perfect. Let's talk about the reasons why I want you guys to get off the island. It's not always safe. Anybody looked outside? We got a bunch of wood hanging out, a bunch of trees, right? So when we talk about that storm surge and everything else, what people don't think about sometimes is, oh, hey, listen, those trees fall, especially if the soil around them gets really, really soft and those kind of things. Trees fall. What we don't want to occur is you not to be able to get out because of the fact that the trees fell. We can't get to you and you can't get out. My crews back there, they're good. They're really good, but we've got to protect them as well. So if the water begins to get too high, then we don't go and put our vehicles in high water. We don't currently operate a high water vehicle yet. The county resources sometimes struggle to get to us because, again, we're on an island. So when the evacuation plans and those kind of things come out, please heed those warnings and take the advice of some of us that have been around for the storms and get off the island, if at all possible. If you're going to stay, please utilize our Hurricane Good Neighbor program. Does everybody follow our social media pages? Raise your hand in the air if you follow any of our social media pages. Facebook. Okay. If you don't, how many of us are reading the shoreline? Okay. How many of us are reading the shoreline online as opposed to the physical paper? Anybody reading it online? Okay. I'm going to highly encourage you guys to take the time to read the shoreline. The only problem with the shoreline is that the information that comes out is usually a month late. Okay. So if you get the July or the June shoreline, we'll have the Hurricane Good Neighbor program as an overview. It'll sit in there and it'll let you know this is kind of what this looks like. How many of you are receiving emails via constant contact? Okay, again, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and get on our email list via constant contact, speak to some of the ladies here, because we send out information as far as community events as well as all the hurricane stuff will come out via emails. How many of you are checking emails regularly? Okay. If nothing else, if all else fails, call the firehouse. So if you've got questions about what the storm's going to do, call the firehouse, ask for myself or one of the captains, and we'll do our best to update you on what is going on. Knoll Shores is a unique entity in the fact that we are a small community, and generally speaking, we look out for each other. So we do our best to take care of each other as well. So again, utilize that Hurricane Good Neighbor program. Let's talk about hurricane kits. Okay. When is the time for you to prepare for your hurricane? When's the time to start building that kit? Amen. Right now. So if you haven't started already, start building the kits. There is a chaos theory out there that says, hey, listen, when the storm decides that it's going to make its way our direction, everybody kind of panics. You'll go to Lowe's Foods, Food Line, Walmart. There will be nothing there by the time you get there. So I strongly recommend, if you are ever even considering, hey, listen, I'm going to stay on the island, start preparing by getting your canned goods, get your paper towels, get your water, and those kind of things now. I'm also going to recommend that you guys build go bags. Who knows what a go bag is? Everybody's familiar, right? So things that you want to keep in your go bag: medications. I cannot harp upon medications, because if you're going to be gone from here for a period of time, it is going to be difficult to get up with a pharmacist or your doctor to get refills for where you're at. A lot of the physicians locally, because we do live in a coastal community, they will pre-fill your medications for you as well. So you call them, let them know, hey, I'm leaving for a storm. Can I get an additional 2 weeks? If you're worried about running out or something like that. Medications. Also clothes. I like socks. I like my feet to be dry. That's my number one complaint whenever there's a storm coming, is my feet are going to get wet. So make sure you have appropriate clothes. How many of us have got pets? How many of you plan on leaving your pets? Thank you. So what we've seen here a couple of times for storms in Carteret County is people will leave and then they will leave their pets behind. So don't leave your pet. If you're leaving, take your pet with you. Okay. How many of us live on the ocean side? Where are ocean side folks at? Who lives on the ocean side? So you have those wonderful dunes sitting out there, and they're a great thing. But what they do is when those storms come up here, there's this thing called sandblasting that occurs. And that sandblasting will go ahead and what it will impact, it impacts your sewer and all the great wonderful things that are going on there. Okay. It's also going to impact, as far as erosion goes, coming into your front porch. So the drift that happened in Topsail with Florence, wind went on ahead and impacted. These people couldn't get out the back side of their home and they had water on the front side. So they were trapped inside their house. So please bear that in mind when you're considering to stay or go. Without my PowerPoint, I'm kind of lost just a little bit here, so y'all just have to bear with me. Streets flood a lot in Pine Shores. Even, I'm sure you guys have experienced that even with normal storms. So again, when those outer bands start making their way and that kind of stuff, if you're staying on the island, as soon as those outer bands start making their way, get home, shelter in place, don't go nowhere. After a storm. So after a storm, we see a lot of storm surge here. We don't want you to get out there and start immediately cleaning up your yard. Don't start, trying to pull up power lines or anything like that. There's a lot of stuff that's going on up underneath that water that you need to be aware of. Wait for us to kind of give the all clear. When you see our trucks kind of out there patrolling the streets and that kind of stuff, if you have questions, stop and ask. And then we do our own cleanup. So we do our own debris cleanup thereafter. It's contracted out already, so don't stress yourself too much with having to figure out, how I'm gonna get the truck to the dump site and everything like that. The town will take care of that and making sure that the town gets cleaned up. You guys got any questions for me? Yes, sir.
The hurricane reentry passes, we have an old one, is that still good or should we get them?
So if you have a reentry pass, as long as it does not have a date on it, you're good. My predecessor decided to put dates on some of the passes, and there were some years where there weren't dates on it. If you got any questions, come see Leslie, and we'll get you a new one issued if need be. Yes, ma'am.
What is the procedure of crossing the bridge? Does the
For-
bridge actually stop, or is it controlled by the wind? Or if we decide the last minute to leave and we can't cross it because someone's stopping us, what is that?
Highway Patrol will make a judgment call with emergency management for the county on when they're going to shut down traffic across the bridge. So I want to say it's anything gusting over 65 is usually when they cut it out.
65.
Yep. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty confident in that particular statement.
I believe the way the highway patrol normally does it, if there's sustained winds at 50 miles an hour, they're going to shut the bridge. But that's not a guarantee. If they see a danger before that, then they'll shut it down. That's all DOT and highway patrol. None of the towns have any authority over it. State
Then reentry dates or timelines, who posts that?
So
Is it
that-
you guys or is it Carter County?
That's going to come from us as a town. We'll make that judgment call as based on when we think our streets are safe. So if our streets are still impassable, the county may be great, but our streets may still be impassable and still not may be safe for you to begin to move around the town of Pine Shores. So again, that's why I urge you to plug in some form or fashion. And again, if nothing else, make a phone call.
You usually let property owners back out there too.
So
For us.
we try to let the property owners back in advance to come and look and do a damage assessment of their own property. I do ask and encourage you with your contractors need to be patient. We understand that they're trying to get to a lot of people and y'all as residents, please be patient. We're trying to manage all the contractors coming in and out. And like I said, sometimes when it comes to re-entry, the contractors can get a little belligerent and then we've got to get belligerent and it's not a good thing because then that delays y'all getting your homes repaired. So reiterate to them, hey, listen, patience is a thing.
Is there things we should turn off in our homes?
Gas. If you've got any kind of LP or natural gas, please turn those things off. Your electricity and that kind of stuff is perfectly fine. We don't have anything too crazy to worry about there.
Just one more point on basic. If you have a generator, please cut your power off and flip on your breakers because what you can do is you can backfeed the power system with those generators and you can put the lineman at risk as well. So if you have a generator that runs your house, if you're plugging stuff in, turn off your master to it. Like if you're backfeeding your house, that way you don't energize the system and hurt the lineman because they can't see when stuff is being backfed into the system.
That's if you live it.
Or even if you're at the house.
So you can't use your generator.
You can, but we try not to backfeed into the system. So only cut your breakers on that you're using. If you have it plugged in, don't try and energize the whole thing. What it'll do is it'll put power back. It can be so powerful to put line back in the lines, the power's out. And those linemen come over there and grab hold of them, they think the line's dead. But there's a generator putting power back into the lines and they can burn the line as well.
If you're running your generator, don't run it in the garage. If possible, put it outside. CO2 is a real thing. So a lot of people now have gotten to the point where they have a generator. A lot of people are running a generator. Your generator needs to be kept outside, keep it fueled, but don't run it in your garage with the garage door open. All that is a fallacy. That CO2 will still collect and could still be toxic to you.
How about if you have the exhaust going through the wall?
Talk to me a little bit more about it. So it's in the garage and you got it going outside. The exhaust going outside.
The exhaust is going through the wall.
That's a solid practice, but I wouldn't say that that's best practice because you've got to really make sure that, hey, listen, like there's nothing escaping. Because what'll happen with that CO2 is that CO2 begins to settle and it continues, it's kind of like it layers itself. So even if it's like, oh, hey, listen, we're only letting go of, maybe 3,000 parts per million or something like that. As that begins to layer, the longer you run that generator, you still run the risk of you putting yourself in a situation where carbon can go ahead and get in your lungs and those kind of things. Anything else? Well, if you guys have got any questions or if you want us to come by and take a look at, the house as far as potential tree fall from here or something like that, we'll be happy to come and look. We also do home inspections just in case for fire safety and those kind of things, slip, trips, and falls. Other than that, please follow our social media pages. And if you don't have a reentry pass, get with Leslie. If you need an updated reentry pass, get with Leslie. If you guys have got any questions, feel free to call the firehouse. Thank you all for attending.